Mark Waid's comic series starts with a premise so bold and intriguing that I had to pick it up immediately. I expected a dark, thrilling ride, and Irredeemable delivered that from page 1, but I didn't expect it to become one of my favorite comics of all time. This is a video essay, but really it's a love letter to Irredeemable, a story that shocked me, moved me, and ultimately changed how I look at superhero comics. I want to share my journey with this incredible series and why its storytelling, themes, and emotional core means so much to me. I still remember the day I started reading Irredeemable. I was immediately drawn in by the opening scene, the Plutonian, this world's analog of Superman, doing the unthinkable. Within that first issue, we see him snap in a way no one saw coming. As a longtime comics fan, I was equal parts horrified and fascinated. Here's a comic turning the familiar superhero formula upside down, and I couldn't look away. I tore through issue after issue, enthralled by the mystery of why this beloved hero had fallen so far. It was a wild ride from the very start, full of moments that made my jaw drop and my heart pound. All throughout, I was enjoying Irredeemable as a brilliantly crafted deconstruction of the superhero mythos. But it wasn't until I reached the final panel of the final issue, number 37, that I had a true epiphany. In that last moment, everything I'd read was suddenly cast in a new light. I won't spoil the specifics, but I will say the ending reframed the entire story for me. It made me realize that Irredeemable isn't just a dark tale about a hero's downfall. It's also an ode to the very idea of heroism. That realization hit me like a lightning bolt, and I fell in love with the comic on an even deeper level. I actually sat there with the book in my hands, stunned and emotional, thinking about how clever and heartfelt it was. That's the moment I knew Irredeemable had left a permanent mark on me. One of the things that makes Irredeemable so special is how it subverts classic superhero tropes. We've all grown up with stories of infallible heroes, the noble, all-powerful saviors like Superman who always does the right thing. Mark Waid takes that archetype and he asks, what if it all went wrong? The Plutonian is basically this world's Superman figure. He's immensely powerful, beloved by the public, and he saved the world countless times. But instead of following the familiar path of the hero, always triumphing over darkness, Irredeemable dares to show us the hero becoming the darkness. From the beginning, we witness the Plutonian commit acts that are unthinkable for a superhero. It's not mind control, it's not a clone, it's not some alternate universe evil twin, it's him, baby! The same hero who used to inspire hope now instills terror. This twist immediately upends our expectations. As readers, we're used to a certain comfort in superhero tales. No matter how bad things get, the hero will pull through. Irredeemable yanks that safety net away. Suddenly, no one is safe, and you genuinely fear what the Plutonian will do next. The comic brilliantly plays with these tropes. The sidekick in peril, the desperate team of former allies, the arch nemesis with a secret, and it turns them all on their head. Every time I thought I knew where it was going, the story zigged in a direction I didn't expect. It's a thrilling experience, especially if you're well versed in superhero conventions, because Waid is intentionally using your familiarity against you. He knows exactly what you think will happen, and he teases it only to subvert it in a way that's far more compelling. By exploring what happens when the world's greatest hero becomes its worst threat, Irredeemable also comments on the genre as a whole. It's as if the series is saying, you think you know, but you have no idea. And as someone who's read superhero comics my whole life, I found that incredibly exciting. It reminded me of why I love the genre, not just for its traditions, but for its ability to surprise and evolve. Irredeemable manages to be a deconstruction that's equal parts homage and critique, and that balance is masterful. Beyond its high concept premise, Irredeemable offers a profound commentary on power and responsibility, and on the frightening fragility of heroism itself. We've all heard that Spider-Man mantra, with great power there must also come great responsibility. The Plutonian is an embodiment of ultimate power, so naturally he carries the heaviest responsibility imaginable. He's expected to be perfect, to always be there, to never falter. But what Mark Waid does is show us the crushing weight of those expectations. As the story unfolds, we learn about the immense pressure the Plutonian lived under. He could hear every cry for help around the globe. He was idolized, yes, but also intensely feared by the very people he protected, because who could truly be comfortable knowing a godlike being is watching over them? The Plutonian saved everyone else, but no one ever saved him from his own loneliness and stress. Over time, that pressure and isolation started to crack him. The series reveals that heroism can be fragile, not in the sense that heroes are weak, the Plutonian is anything but weak, but in the sense that a hero's resolve and goodness aren't indestructible. If pushed far enough, if stripped of support and empathy, even the brightest hero can break. This is a chilling idea, that the only thing separating a Superman from a supervillain is a certain level of emotional support, understanding, and maybe luck. Irredeemable explores that thin line with such nuance. It delves into the why of the Plutonian's fall, the personal failures, the misunderstandings, the tragic moments that piled up until he reached a boiling point. It's not one cliche bad day that turns him. It's a series of human moments, mistakes, and disappointments that accumulate over years. And once that line is crossed, we see how responsibility morphs into guilt and self-loathing, which then morphs into anger at the world. The Plutonian essentially says, I've done everything for you people, and you still fear me? Still betray me? Fine, have it your way. And he stops holding back his fury. Reading this, I was struck by how plausible it felt in context. It's scary to admit, but Waid makes you understand how a hero could lose faith in humanity and himself. It gave me a new appreciation for the heroes in other stories who don't break. It makes their steadfast moral compass seem all the more miraculous. In a way, Irredeemable made me value the concept of with great power comes great responsibility even more by showing the nightmarish flip side of that coin. Irredeemable is also deeply emotional. This isn't just a story about a superpowered tyrant. It's a story about people, their feelings, flaws, and relationships. The Plutonian, whose real name is Tony, is at the center, and his character is painted by tragically human strokes. Yes, he's an alien or a being from another world, but emotionally, he's very much like a person struggling with feelings of abandonment, betrayal, and inadequacy. Through flashbacks and revelations, we see Tony's desperate desire to be loved and to belong. We see moments where he tried to connect with others, or moments where a kind word might have pulled him back from the brink. Understanding his past doesn't excuse his horrific actions, but it does add layers of poignancy to his character. I found myself in the strange position of hating the Plutonian for what he was doing, yet also feeling pity for him. That kind of conflicting emotional response is a testament to how well written he is. He's not a mustache-twirling villain, he's a broken hero, which in many ways is far more heartbreaking. The supporting cast in Irredeemable was just as compelling. The Plutonian's former teammates, a superhero group called the Paradigm, each have their own complex emotions to deal with as their friend-turned-leader becomes their worst enemy. There's Cubit, the genius inventor who refuses to give up on Tony and is constantly trying to find a solution or even a sliver of redemption for him. Cubit's determination and latent guilt, he keeps wondering if he could have done more to help Tony before it was too late, bring a lot of heart to the story. Then we have characters like Bete Noir, Gilgamesh, Caden, and others who have personal histories with the Plutonian. Betrayal, guilt, love, regret. Every one of these heroes feels real because we see how Tony's fall from grace affects them on a deeply personal level. Some of them are angry and vengeful, some are grief-stricken and lost, and some are conflicted because they remember the good man he used to be. One of my favorite subplots involves Bete Noir, who harbors a painful secret about the Plutonian that she's terrified to reveal. Her fear and remorse exemplify how intertwined the heroes' lives were with Tony's. His collapse isn't just a global catastrophe, it's a personal tragedy for those who knew him. Even the Plutonian's arch-enemy, Modius, is given surprising emotional depth in a very twisted way, I might add. Without spoiling too much, Modius's obsession with the Plutonian goes far beyond simple villainy. It's an uncomfortable, psychologically complex dynamic that further humanizes the story's conflicts. What I love is that Irredeemable doesn't rely solely on action to keep you invested. It genuinely makes you care about these characters. I found myself worrying about them, aching for them, sometimes even mourning with them. There were moments of quiet amidst the chaos, like two teammates sharing their doubts about whether they did the right thing, or a flashback to Tony desperately trying to do a good deed that backfires. And these moments hit hard. The emotional core of Irredeemable is what elevates it from being a cool concept into an unforgettable story. By the end, I wasn't just reading about superpowered beings, I was reading about friends, lovers, and rivals dealing with an unimaginable crisis of the soul. And that made the story resonate in a very real way. Now, none of this would have worked if it wasn't for Mark Waid and his incredible understanding of superhero mythology. I really believe Waid was the perfect writer for Irredeemable. He gets heroes, especially the archetype of the pure-hearted, noble superhero, at a level that few writers do. Mark Waid is famously one of the biggest Superman fans on the planet. I mean, this is the guy who wrote Superman Birthright, definitive Superman origin stories, and co-created Kingdom Come, which is like a love letter to Superman and the Justice League. Waid has spent years crafting stories about idealistic heroes and exploring what makes them tick. He understands the optimism, the moral code, and the hope that characters like Superman symbolize. He's even featured in the official DC documentary, which is fantastic if you have access to that documentary. But he talks about a story where he saw Superman the movie in the theater for the first time, walked out of the theater and said, I don't know what I'm going to do with the rest of my life, but it somehow has to involve Superman. And that hit me when I heard that story. I was like, whoa, this guy was meant to write Superman. It's precisely that deep knowledge and respect for the superhero mythos that allows Waid to turn it inside out so effectively in Irredeemable. He isn't just writing a deconstruction from a place of cynicism or disdain. He's writing it from a place of love and intimate familiarity. He takes the classic sunshine Superman figure and puts him through absolute hell. But you can tell Waid knows exactly how far to bend the archetype without breaking the story. In lesser hands, a Superman goes evil plot could just feel edgy for the sake of shock value. But Waid gives Irredeemable a sense of purpose and authenticity. He's essentially saying, I love the ideal of the superhero so much that I need to test it under the worst conditions imaginable. And because he knows the source material so well, that Superman ethos, the test feels meaningful. The Plutonian's downward spiral has echoes of stories we know, but Waid pushes them to extremes we've never seen, all the while maintaining a logical and emotional continuity. You never feel like Irredeemable is betraying the spirit of the superhero tales. In a strange way, it's reinforcing why heroes are important by showing us this nightmare scenario. I also have to praise how Waid paces the story and reveals the mysteries at just the right moments. He keeps you wondering why the Plutonian broke, peeling back layers of Tony's past bit by bit. When those revelations come, they don't just satisfy curiosity, they hit you emotionally because of Waid's strong character work. And let's not forget, he wrote all 37 issues of Irredeemable, maintaining a consistent vision and tone throughout. The consistency of the narrative voice is one of the reasons the series lands its ending so well. By the time you reach that final issue, you can feel Waid's passion for the story in every twist and turn. Honestly, I think only someone who truly loves the superhero genre could write something that tears it down so bravely and builds it back up in such a profound way. Mark Waid was absolutely the right person to helm this comic, and the result is a story that's as thrilling as it is thought-provoking. Despite how much I adore Irredeemable, I've noticed I don't hear it mentioned on a lot of people's top 10 lists, and I think it deserves more recognition. It is a crime that Irredeemable isn't as commonly mentioned as some of the big Marvel or DC storylines, or even other deconstruction comics like Watchmen or The Boys. Part of that might be because it was published by Boom Studios, a smaller publisher, so it didn't have the massive marketing machine behind it like something like a DC Comics event would. But the quality of storytelling in Irredeemable is absolutely on par with the greats of the genre. In fact, I'd say it's a must-read for any comic book fan who enjoys superheroes. If you love classic heroes, Irredeemable will shock you and make you appreciate those classics even more. If you're a bit tired of the same old superhero formulas, Irredeemable will feel like a breath of fresh air. It's unpredictable and it pushes boundaries in a way few comics do. It's also relatively self-contained, which means you get a complete beginning-to-end epic without needing tons of background info. Now, there is a spin-off book which was running simultaneously called Incorruptible, which was also written by Mark Waid, and it's kind of the flip of what if a bad guy became superhero. And I like that also, but Irredeemable to me is the standout masterpiece. I often recommend it to friends who are looking for something off the beaten path or who want to just see how far the superhero genre can stretch. And more often than not, they come back to me wide-eyed and eager to talk about it. It's the kind of story that sticks with you. What's really cool is that Irredeemable isn't just about shock value or grim dark just for the heck of it. It has something to say. It's a deconstruction with a soul. By the end of it, you're not feeling hollow or depressed. You're left contemplative, maybe a bit emotionally wrung out, but also oddly hopeful in a way I'll explain in a moment. That's a difficult balance to strike, and it's one of the reasons I hold this comic in such high esteem. If you haven't read Irredeemable yet, I cannot recommend it enough. And if you have read it, then you know exactly why I'm gushing about it. It's one of those stories that you wish more people would talk about. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Another evil Superman story? Really? In 2025, we've got The Boys, both the comic and the massive Amazon show with Homelander front and center. We've got Injustice, which has an evil Superman. Basically, Superman going full authoritarian in an entire video game franchise and comic book series. We've got Brightburn, Omni-Man from Invincible, and a million other memes that basically boil down to, what if Superman snapped? This whole trope has become so common, so overexposed that a lot of people are just tired of it, and I get that. Honestly, I am too. But Irredeemable is not just another evil Superman story. It's something deeper, something far more personal. And the reason it stands apart, the reason it still hits just as hard today, maybe even harder, is it came from Mark Waid. Mark Waid is not just some edgy writer trying to shock you. He's not someone who dislikes Superman thinking he's boring. Quite the opposite. Like I said, he's one of the biggest Superman fans in the world. And when Zack Snyder's Man of Steel came out and Superman snapped Zod's neck, Mark Waid literally stood up and walked out of the theater. He said, "I'm done, that's it." That's how deeply he cares about the character and what Superman stands for. So when he writes a story about a Superman-like character going bad, it means something different. It's not cynicism. It's a deep exploration of what could cause someone so powerful, so idealistic, to fall so catastrophically, and what that says about the world around him. Waid isn't tearing Superman down because he dislikes the mythos. He's testing the mythos from a place of love and understanding. And that's what makes Irredeemable so special. It's not about what if Superman was evil. It's about how someone like Superman could break and what that would mean to the people who love him, trust him, and then fear him. It's about emotional fragility, human connection, and the cost of dehumanizing even our most powerful icons. It's a tragedy first, a cautionary tale second, and a subversion of superhero tropes last. And when you know who Mark Waid is and how much reverence he has for Superman, it adds this extra layer of heartbreak and depth to the whole thing. Because this isn't coming from someone who wants Superman to fall. It's coming from someone who desperately hopes he never does. Now, I want to circle back to that final issue that I mentioned at the beginning. The moment that turned my admiration for Irredeemable into full-blown love. I promise not to spoil too much because I think it's important to convey why the ending means so much to me, but I don't want to rob you of that joy. I want you to experience it for yourself. Like I said, I was reading it issue to issue as it was coming out. I was enjoying it, loving Mark Waid as a writer, but then when I got to that final issue, that final panel, I said, whoa, this was like on another level. In those closing pages, after all the chaos and tragedy, Mark Waid does something truly extraordinary. He finds a glimmer of light in all the darkness. When I realized what I was seeing in that panel, I got chills. It suddenly reframed the entire series as not just a cautionary tale, but also a kind of origin story for hope. That hit me hard. It was like Mark Waid saying, even in this darkest timeline, something good can come out of it. Even after witnessing the worst case scenario, we still need heroes, and we will create them if we have to. I found that incredibly beautiful, especially in 2025, everything that's going on right now in the world. It's a paradox that only a story written with real love for the genre could pull off. Irredeemable spent its whole run showing us how a hero can fall, and in the final moment, it shows us why heroes will always rise. I remember closing that comic after the final issue and just sitting there. I felt emotional, but it wasn't a simple sadness or happiness. It was a deep appreciation for what I had just experienced. You know, the years I had been reading it, it made that entire time worth it. This journey was so amazing, and then the destination was even better. Irredeemable took me on that journey that was thrilling, unsettling, and poignant, and it left me with a greater love for superhero stories than I had before. That's something I didn't even think was possible, but Mark Waid did it. So this is my love letter to Irredeemable. Thank you, Mark Waid and the entire creative team, for daring to ask the uncomfortable questions and for taking us on this roller coaster of a story. Thank you for making me question the foundations of heroism and then in the end, reaffirming why those foundations matter. Irredeemable is more than just a comic to me. It's an experience that reminds me why I fell in love with the superhero genre in the first place. If you've watched this far and you haven't read Irredeemable, I genuinely hope you'll give it a try. Go experience this story for yourself. Let it challenge you, thrill you, and maybe even give you a new perspective on heroes you thought you knew. I promise you it's worth it. If you're already a fan of Irredeemable, then I'm sure you can relate to some of what I've shared today. Please leave your thoughts in the comments down below. In the end, Irredeemable shows us that heroes are not defined by their power, but by their choices. And it reminds us why choosing to stay good is so important. It's a story that broke my heart and put it back together in the best way. I will cherish this story forever, and I hope if you read it, it leaves a lasting impact on you as well. Thank you for listening to my passionate ramblings about this comic I adore. Now go read Irredeemable and prepare to have your mind blown and your heart touched by one of the most powerful superhero stories ever told.